Hi, welcome back, everyone. This is Raja Nawaz. I'm the CVD for EMEA and APAC here at Green Cabbage, and today we have with us MVK,
Yes,
one and only.
pleasure to be here, Raja. And always love talking to the folks on our team that are front line and talk to our customers and support our customers every day. So it's a great pleasure to be.
Amazing, amazing. Thank you so much. So today's topic, we're going to be talking a little bit about global client insights, and particularly what I want to know from you is the understanding around the challenges and the opportunities that we can see internationally. So not just in USA, but EMEA and APAC as we're expanding out there. One of the questions that we actually had was around what are the most common challenges that you're hearing from our global clients, and what is most important to them right now?
Yeah, it's great. It's good to be here. Yeah, just very quickly, my name is Michael van Keulen. I am the Chief Customer Officer here at Green Cabbage. I started here 3 months ago, and I know we're both fairly new here, not to the space, but at least to this fabulous company. Like over the past several years, I've had the opportunity in my previous roles as well at Coupa Software and others to talk to a lot of CPOs. And I think the biggest challenge is how do we just cope with the new normal? The new normal being disruption is everywhere, challenges are everywhere, supply chains are never going to be the same again. And how do we deal with that? And how do we constantly just stay ahead of the curve and have a backup to the backup to the backup? And what do I know about my suppliers, tier 1, tier 2, tier 3? And I think that's the biggest challenge we have right now is just there's so much going on in the macro, whether it's, social unrest, the political climate, the things that we can't control, the environment and the things that are really changing very rapidly. And I always say, like, look, let's not focus on the things we can't control, but let's at least make sure that we arm ourselves with the right intelligence and the right knowledge so that we can anticipate very quickly and pivot where we need to. I think that's the biggest challenge, but also the biggest opportunity for us in procurement.
No, absolutely. And love that you mentioned supply chains, the impact that, for example, the disruption in the Suez Canal had on the macro level, but also made everybody realize going down into micro levels that second, tertiary, and then fourth level suppliers, how much that can really drive the daily increase in cost, the panic that it caused just overall globally. It was just tremendous to see that, and amazing that people still managed to get around it, but great to hear from that. Around these challenges also, whilst they are globally impacting everyone, what are the differences that you're also noticing going from different companies, various sizes and industries, or even regions as you break it down further and further?
Yeah, what I always think is very interesting is that we need to at least understand how connected everything is these days. And I think that for a very long period of time, we were mostly focused in procurement, including myself, let's say 5-10 years ago, with my tier 1 supplier. Hey, I have a contract and I want to make sure that that contract has the right terms, the right conditions, the right pricing, obviously, and that it would allow me to mitigate risk at the tier 1 level. What we've learned over the past 5 years, especially, is how connected everything is. And whether you are doing business with a company that is solely based in the US and providing me services in the US, that doesn't necessarily mean that if there is an impact somewhere in, let's say, Latin America, that it doesn't impact my tier 1 supplier. And therefore, we have to start digging much deeper in these relationships and really understanding the connectivities that are out there around the globe. And so I don't typically like to think about sizes of suppliers, where they're geographically concentrated, but I want to understand more about those suppliers, especially the ones that are critical to my business, is where do they get their supply from? And what does the supplier of their supplier, where do they get their information and their products and goods and services from? And I think that is really, really critical. So I no longer really like to think about it through the lens of like where they're based and what's the size. But it's more, how critical are they to my business? And what do I know about my suppliers and their suppliers and their suppliers? And I think that is really where procurement becomes more strategically relevant, and where we can ensure that there is business continuity.
Amazing. I mean, sticking with the theme of relevancy of the procurement process, procurement intelligence, what would you say are often the places or the things that our clients are overlooking right now in their procurement strategies?
Yeah, I think it's a few different things. I think that, first and foremost, let's make sure that when you award a contract, that you've done all your diligence, which is not just understanding that supplier, their financial ownership, their supply chains, and you ask all these right questions, but also, how do I ensure that I've optimized the contract that I'm about to agree to with that supplier? Both from a pricing perspective, but also from a terms and conditions perspective. I think that is I think the first step is, let's make sure that we've truly done all of our homework before we finally award a contract, including having the right level of intelligence. I think that's the first thing.
Yeah.
I think the second thing is, the biggest innovation that we have as a company is not within your own four walls. It is with your suppliers.
Yeah.
So, in my past, I've always tried to figure out, can I either contractually or just through conversation have an understanding of, is this supplier able to drive innovation within my four walls? Because ultimately, what I think we in procurement want to do is we want to drive competitive edge. We want to bring something to our stakeholders that would allow us to competitively differentiate ourselves, and ultimately bring innovation. And you do that through the power of your suppliers and your supply chain. And I think that those are probably the two key elements. It's driving innovation and making sure that we drive competitive edge. And I think that ultimately the CPOs that I admire, and they know who they are when they hear this, that's what they do. They bring innovation and competitive advantage to the companies that they support.
Love that you actually brought up innovation and competitive advantage, because the next question perfectly ties into that. The client demands, as it is shifting more and more towards intelligence, is shifting more towards a data-driven platform. Why is that now happening? Where before we were perfectly happy waiting for 4 weeks, going through the whole process of doing our due diligence, now we want the answers within 48 hours. We need to get it on our desk. We need to get through and get the best deal possible, not just looking at a whole deal level, but really breaking it down to a micro SKU level. So why has that happened now?
Yeah, I think it's just if you look at just take us away from procurement and just look at what's going on in the world. Technology is just accelerating everything. I mean, it probably started with Amazon, and there were a few other companies out there, but that really simplified that shopping experience for the consumer.
Absolutely.
And so, that's where my previous employer came from. Is like, hey, why is it so easy to consume or to make award decisions in your personal life, but if you then translate that to the business world, everything just became so much more complicated. And that's where, of course, companies like Coupa and others came from, is simplifying the business spend process, if you will. And so I think it's just a symptom of a much broader development, which is, technology is advancing at such a speed that it allows us to go much faster, but also make much better informed decisions.
Absolutely.
And that's, where also Green Cabbage came from, right? Like, how can we inform procurement teams with making better deal decisions? And how can we provide them with the level of intelligence in a very quick 24, 48 hours? And it's going to just get faster and faster by purely the adoption of AI, of course, providing procurement teams with the level of intelligence that they require to optimize the deal outcome. And I think that's what AI is bringing to the table. Now, what's really critical is we need to have underlying data that we can trust, that is structured, is governed, controlled, is anonymized, is gated, is secured, because that is very, very critical. I mean, I've said for a very long period of time, the best data makes for the best AI. How do I trust the algorithms? How do I trust the underlying outcomes? And the only way that I believe I can trust that is not by putting something in the public domain through a ChatGPT. No, I want to be able to do that against a data set that I know I can trust. And again, I think that technology is just continuously going to accelerate that, but having underlying data that I can trust is absolutely fundamental and critical for that.
Amazing. And throughout your long, illustrious career, amazing roles that you've held in the past as well, you probably have a lot of success stories. But what is that one seriously strong success story that stands out for you where a client, and you're already smiling, so I'm sure you already thought of something, but they managed to overcome a major obstacle by, combining all these aspects and keeping all these things in mind with procurement intelligence, supplier strategy, tertiary connections, 3PL, all the beautiful things that go into it.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard to always say, like, what's this one example? And I'm smiling because, I've been very fortunate to have been given opportunities throughout my career where I was able to build things and where I was able to, together with my teams that I've been fortunate enough to support and executives that gave me the trust and the confidence and the freedom and the autonomy and the authority. So I just always want to stress that because, like I believe that, careers are not just built based on effort and based on knowledge, but it's also based on people that give you the trust and the teams that you bring together and that you're fortunate enough to support. So that's why I was smiling because, I've been very lucky and very fortunate to have done what I've done over my career, and I'm very grateful. If I just look maybe not at one example, but the best experiences that I've had is where I was able to together with the team, come up with what I call fact-based decisions. Still too often we make decisions based upon, gut feeling, based upon tribal knowledge, based upon, well, this is what has worked in the past, and therefore it very likely is going to work in the future. And I think that those days we have to agree that those days are gone. And we have to learn to use data, facts, whether that's should cost models, whether that is, deep intelligence, procurement intelligence, to make sure that we optimize deal outcomes. And the experiences that I've had where outcomes were optimized, where award decisions actually turned out to be very beneficial for the companies that I supported or the clients that I've helped on my past at Coupa, but also today, of course, at Green Cabbage. The best outcomes have always been the ones where, we really used underlying fact-based decisions to award contracts and to engage with a third party. Those were the ones that always, resonated the best with me, if you will.
Absolutely. And what I also believe is unique to us at Green Cabbage is it's not always the case that we're going to walk in and then tell you, here's the savings that you can achieve. Often it could also be the case that we are working with great clients, great CPOs, that you have a solid negotiation strategy in place. And you might have negotiated such an amazing deal where we just have to turn around and say, hey, well done, put pen to paper, because it's not going to get any better.
Absolutely. I that's a great point. Like I don't think that us providing intelligence that validates that what that procurement team has done or that company has done, that customer has done, is very competitive and is optimized, that is, I would say like a failure of the value proposition that we bring to the table. I think that as a CPO, if I can get validation that, hey, the deal you had in place or the renewal that you're about to sign is already optimized, it just gives me the validation that we've optimized it and extracted the most amount of value out of this contract. And I think that is as valuable as, hey, you can actually take out 15 or 30%, or hey, here are some of the terms or conditions that you can optimize, whether that's indemnification or limitation liability or payment terms or whatever those terms could be. I think both are good.
100%. And it goes back perfectly to the point where you said areas that might be overlooked. It is the terms and conditions, which often are the silent killers of any deal, where, a supplier might tie you into multi-year deals without you knowing, or an uplift is already built into the whole T&E side of it. And even there, Green Cabbage can really step in and support you and help you with getting the right terms, getting the right terminology into place. Sticking with the theme of that, where do you feel some of our clients are still struggling, or it's hard for them to explain how to get through, like what challenges they're facing and how we can actually step in to support them in order to overcome those challenges?
Yeah, and I've said this many times in other settings. I think the biggest challenge that procurement has is still storytelling. Is how do I, as a procurement person, whether you're the CPO or, get into an elevator with an executive, and you have 30 seconds, and then it's like, hey, maybe that person doesn't know you, and he or she would say, hey, what do you do? I'm in procurement. Oh, what does that mean? And you need to think about, like, hey, if I got 30 seconds with the CEO, what would I tell her or him about what procurement is here, and why are we uniquely qualified and positioned to deliver a set of outcomes? And, if you can just say, like, look, I'm here to, one way to do that is you could say, I'm here to accelerate your strategic objectives. Okay, well, that sounds, in my opinion, sounds pretty, pretty interesting. Okay, tell me more. But if we start to talk about, I'm here to save money, or no, I mean, that doesn't, like, you have to tie it to objectives. You have to tie it to, so I think that's the biggest challenge that we have today still is storytelling. You still hear some people say, like, I don't get a seat at the table. I'm like, that's so 10 years ago. Like, let's stop talking about that. Let's really focus on what we're here to deliver. And then, I think procurement is the best profession to be in today.
And like that you said, the focus word it's so important. Getting the seat at the table, getting just the ear. It is outdated, that terminology, that way of thinking. What would you say could make it easier for organizations to really focus on those few priorities that unlock more strategic value? So we have the overarching theme, but then what is really the couple of key phrases that will get a CFO to go, oh, I need to listen to this guy?
Yeah, it's I like to think about procurement as value drivers. And so I frankly don't necessarily even like the word procurement.
Okay.
I'd like us to think as, like, maybe chief value orchestrators, or something around. It's not just about taking out costs. That's often a one-time event. Right? If I walk into any new organization, I am pretty sure, and maybe that's a little bit of the Dutch arrogance in me, that I could probably save some money here and there. But that's often a one-time event. And I think that it's important that we explain to the CFO, hey, we're here to de-risk the supply chain. We're here to ensure business continuity. We are here to drive innovation. As I said earlier, we're here to drive competitive edge. And we're also here to very likely have a positive impact to things like return on invested capital, paybacks, working capital, cash flow, saving money, improving our P&L, driving EPS. We're all doing all those things. But I think it's important that the CFO understands that we're here to do so much more. Now, in exchange, what you need from the CFO is you need one thing, which is you need to support me. Right? You need to give me the air cover. You need to give me the support, the autonomy, the authority. And if those things all come together and you form a strong partnership with each other, then I think that procurement can deliver so much more value, especially in the age of AI, especially in the age where data is available and there's trusted, structured data that you can utilize. And that's of course right at the heart of what we deliver at Green Cabbage is all of that. I always like to use the word ammunition, but I'm not sure if that's always the right word to use, but is to arm us with the right intelligence and the right structured data that then ultimately allows us to optimize.
That's what we're here for, right?
Yeah, totally.
100%. Well, thank you so much for your time. Really, really appreciate it. I know you're super busy with everything, but it's always great to connect with you, always great to talk to you, learn from you, which I personally love a lot. And to everybody that's listening and then seeing us, this is it for now from Green Cabbage. This is Raja, and we've had MVK with us. So thank you very much for tuning in.
Thanks, everybody.